All right, everybody, I want to get started. My name is Ryan Ben. I'm the Director of Association Experience here at the International Interior Design Headquarters Office. Again, you probably already know that since you have hopefully seen me 4 other times at this point. We're so glad for you to be here today. We've got 5 incredible chapters who are going to share some of their programming and what has mattered most to them. The idea behind this program is to hopefully hear about what chapters did last year that really resonated with their members, resonated with other volunteers and other chapter leaders. Again, we've got 5 great chapters. We're going to do them in the order that you see them on this slide. A bit of housekeeping before I invite this first chapter to join me. From 12 to 12:30 today, we're going to be doing a breakout room session, and I'll give you some more instructions again at the end, but that's going to mean that you'll all get an email with a meeting link that will lead you to the next session where we'll do breakout rooms for about half an hour. After that session's over, we will not be coming back together as a group. Instead, you have the rest of the afternoon to prepare for our evening session, the Surprise Honor Awards. Fill the chat with questions and comments, anything like that you can think of during these conversations, please do so. We're going to try and save a little bit of time here from like 11:50 to noon for a Q&A. If we don't end up having that time because we're trying to do 5 chapters in an hour, which is an ambitious task, don't worry. If you have any questions for a specific chapter or on a specific program, you can send them to me directly and I'll facilitate a conversation with those chapter leaders. I think that that's enough from me. So I'd like you all to help welcome to the virtual stage, the Gateway chapter. Danny and Jen, can you join me so we can share your presentation? Hey, Danny. Jen, all right.
Hey, good morning.
Flawless.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I am Jen Davis, the current president of the Gateway chapter.
And I'm DANI SHELEY. I'm the current president-elect of the Gateway chapter.
And we are presenting our But First Coffee program with you this morning. So first, the mission. But First Coffee, we created as a chapter in January of 2018. And we were just trying to revive the design community's interest in the Gateway chapter. This event provides a casual networking opportunity using panel discussions, open dialogue, and product demonstrations. Each month we host this event, and each of those discussions is a little bit different. So our mission is to bring the St. Louis design community together over a cup of joe. But first, planning and goals. So these events are developed through our VP of Professional Development and his program committee. These events are held on the second Wednesday of every month at either different coffee shops, dealerships, or firms locally in St. Louis, and they're open to everyone. So topics are based on relevant events and hot button topics in the industry and are planned for the next upcoming months. So these events are planned 3 months prior to that month's topic. And once we secure that venue and agree on what that topic will be, the VP of Professional Development shares that with the board, and then we start to promote this event on social media. But first, marketing. As you can see, we have created our own logo for this event. Each month, the IIDA Gateway newsletter is sent out to all of our constant contact individuals. We also post this on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and our chapter website. And our website even includes a quick access button to add this to your calendar. These events are intended to be very inclusive and target our audience of reps, contractors, students, both members and non-members, so open to everyone. And here are just a couple quotes from some people who have attended this event in the past. At the top left, you can see a survey participant says, "I like getting to know my fellow designers and realize we are all part of the same goal to serve our clients with the best solution to their project." And on the right, we have, "But First Coffee is a great networking platform for everyone in our Gateway industry. Also, the many different topics of discussions are valuable as well. I believe we all can learn from one another over a hot cup of joe." But first, membership. Each new member is greeted by one of these But First Coffee mugs. We actually bought Target completely out of their supply of these mugs and had to get our own custom mugs printed because we ran out of these beautiful mugs that you see on the right. So our membership committee drops this mug off at our new members wherever they work, and they get invited to the upcoming But First Coffee event. So by increasing engagement in our chapters and making members feel welcome, this starts to allow them to become more involved moving forward.
All right, and then I'll take it away. So, but first, finance. So how do we finance these? Since it is a free event to both members and non-members, we budget to use existing funds or profits made from other events to hold this event. We also like to highlight our sponsors, which we'll see on the next slide. So a lot of times these events previously held in person were sponsored as an event sponsor, and so the food and beverage were taken care of, and we didn't have to tap into those funds or profits. And it's important for us in the mission to support our design community and promote awareness and advocacy. So we felt that this event should be something that we will hold whether it's sponsored or not. So, but for sponsors. This year, to extend an additional perk to our sponsors, we understand, they're what help keep us running every year. So to include them more, our platinum, gold, and silver level annual sponsors receive a mention and a highlight at beginning of at least one of the But First Coffee events every year. So whether that's virtual or in person, we make sure to highlight our sponsors, and it creates additional value for them to be part of our chapter. Here's just another quote from another survey participant. They enjoy the knowledge sharing in a room where people that may be considered competitors, we're all at the same table for an event like IADA, and that's something the community can bring us together for. So that's kind of just the gist of that quote. And then in 2020, we extended But First Coffee to our students. One of our missions for 2020 through the Catalyst Grant was to outreach and encourage our student member growth. Through the LINK student program, we were able to grow our membership for students from 3 to over 40. This year, we even have over 60 student members. So through that mentorship program, we included a But First Coffee. So we go in the spring semester. We have 6 campuses in our region that we cover. And so what we do is, last year was our first kickoff in February. So we've got a few photos from that. So we discussed job searching, networking, portfolios, resume building, more of a Q&A session in the spring semester. And then in the fall semester, we're promoting IIDA and the Gateway Link program. Again, our goal is to engage these students early with our chapter over a hot cup of joe. And we also have our marketing for that. We took our standard logo and included the little cap and gown for students. But wait, 2020 virtual. So how do we transfer our awesome mission of But First Coffee virtually? Fortunately for our chapter in 2020, we were able to translate probably about 75% of our events to virtual. And so to continue engagement and continue our mission, this was the first event that we pivoted to virtual. So the same panel discussion format easily allowed us to shift to that. So we've got some images there of our awesome members attending these events. We encouraged attendance because the virtual format allowed those that would normally travel. They were actually able to attend the events. We have some folks in Kansas City as well. And so we were able to have them included, and also, accommodate the flexible schedules of daycare or school drop-off. Our events typically 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Some may have other commitments that they're not able to join us. So our attendance has actually increased for this event since the pandemic began. So we plan in the future, once we're able to join together again, to actually continue the virtual format for at least every other But First Coffee. And then here's just a few of our topic discussions. Jen, do you want to talk through a few of these?
Sure, absolutely. So some of the topics include working in the design industry during and after the pandemic. We survey our members often just so we're constantly meeting their needs and topics of interest. So future trends of interior design and architecture, we actually covered that earlier this year. The photo on the top, you can see we actually held a sponsor sidewalk showcase. This has actually become a new perk for our sponsorship that we have included into the sponsorship package and planned for as a real live event in 2021 moving forward. Diversity inclusion has been a huge topic of discussion for our chapter, and we have hosted 2 But First coffees so far with 2 different topics of discussion, one diversity and inclusion and one focusing specifically on women-owned business and kind of what all that entails. Advocacy and interior design certifications. We've had several panelists walking us through how to achieve different testing and certifications. So very, very impressive people we have within our own design community. Communication in a virtual world. I know we covered that topic earlier this week with the CLC, and then we actually broke that up into the Zoom breakout spaces, and then we were able to bring everyone back together and record all of the responses so everyone could kind of share what the do's and don'ts, what's working and what's not. So a very relevant topic. We're constantly trying to improve and guide these topics to fulfill our chapter's needs. I think it's also important to note that yes, this is But First Coffee, but once a quarter, we actually do host But First Cocktails to accommodate the evening crowd, people, as DANI mentioned, that may be unable to attend in a morning setting just because of work constraints, commutes, kiddos at home. So once a quarter, it is But First Cocktails as well. So thank you for letting us share what mattered most to the Gateway chapter.
Thank you.
Awesome, DANI and Jen, thank you both so much. That was absolutely fantastic. We really, really appreciate hearing from you both. I want to welcome now to our virtual stage the South Florida chapter and Alexis Moore. Alexis, will you join me and share with all of us what mattered most to your chapter?
Yes, thank you for having me. It's not allowing me to share while you're still sharing.
We will stop sharing then, I promise.
All good. So hi, everyone. I am Alexis Moore with the South Florida chapter, as Ryan mentioned. I am a healthcare interior designer with Gresham Smith. Thank you for having us. We wanted to focus on one of our new signature events, but first, not to go off of them, but I wanted to highlight how we got to our new signature event real quick. You know, the pandemic made things look a little different, a little more separated this year, but our board definitely, shout out to them, stayed extremely strong and engaging. We meet regularly and align our goals with our community expectations. So we came up with these 4 major call to actions and put it into action. So the first is purpose and value. Through a variety of different events, now mostly virtual, just as they had previously said, about 75% of our events went virtual and were successful in that way. We wanted to make sure everything we did as a team for our industry also promoted our purpose for IIDA, while also increasing the value of each event. So we engaged our sponsors more than ever. We also combined, sorry, real life dog problems. We also combined different aspects of our board. For example, we had membership events paired with sponsorship events. So they were no longer separate. In the past, they had been. So that really made our efficiency and purpose and value skyrocket. We also added these really awesome philanthropic events, one called Love and Libations. So we paired that with a sponsor as well. Mugshots and Martinis, NCIDQ Prep, software training, Synergy Summits, just to name a few. And lastly, for the purpose and value, we created a mission statement for every event. So that was extremely important for our members, and definitely now during the COVID world. We wanted to forge connections. So now more than ever, that's definitely been harder, but even pre-COVID, this was one of our goals, bringing together our industry reps with our designers. Here in South Florida, we're a little bit more industry rep heavy on the member side. So we started reaching out to those senior level designers and bringing in that mentorship aspect so we could start leveraging that a little bit more. We continued our design awards so that we could still virtually celebrate the design excellence in our community. So if you're planning a virtual design awards, please feel free to reach out. Hosting community outreach programs, like I said, and leadership forums. We really wanted to leverage technology. Again, we had this goal before COVID, so it's kind of, we're thinking ahead. Branding was huge for our website. At first, our website was just like a landing page and not many people used it. So we got together with, I'll shout him out, Alejandro. He is an FIU student on the FIU board as well and on our board. So he's a rock star. He completely revamped our website and now it's a resource. It's our advocacy has a branded page. Our professional development has a branded page. Like, it's amazing. So I encourage you all to check it out. We also pushed hard on different avenues of social media, not just Instagram. LinkedIn has been huge for us, especially with those older generations that don't really get into Facebook or Instagram. Lastly, our advocacy effort was, in my mind, out of this world. We just ended a really hard deregulation fight, and thankfully, I think it turned out really well. And in partnership with ASID, we hosted a couple of events with them as well. And we also hosted a legislative meet and greet in Civics 101, which helped our members understand government and why we're even being deregulated, the process, just in a deeper dive. So it's not so much, they're not left out, in the dark all the time. So that got amazing feedback. And lastly, with the advocacy, we didn't just focus on our professional advocacy efforts. We really pushed hard on our personal advocacy efforts, like having a diversity and design panel and promoting a lot of other recent issues in our world. So in all, each of these overarching goals for our board were created as a direct result of what our community wanted and needed. Just as most of you probably do, we surveyed our members very frequently, and this is the result of the survey. So we entered into a socially distanced, apart but together kind of world, and we wanted to take all of these ideas and meld them into one event. Big task, but awesome. For Sunny Reed of Perkins and Will, this was her brainchild, so congrats to you. We named it New Year, New You. What better way to welcome 2021 by saying goodbye to last year and focusing on the individual's whole self. We introduced a platform that gives our community an opportunity for a new perspective and a new way forward to advance yourself. We recognize that in order to be the best professional you have to be the best person you can be. So through a variety of activities over a 1.5-day conference, we reconnected with our community on a much deeper and more meaningful level than we've ever done before. It felt completely different than our awards, our design mix, which is the fashion show, any other event. This just felt much deeper and much more meaningful. We did wellness activities that were actually led by industry members that have a background in fitness. So we had a boot camp that was really fun to watch some girls squatting it out for the first time. They'd never done a squat. We had yoga led by a art consultant, and that her background's in yoga. So that was fun to get our whole community involved. We had panels or life hack workshops, as we like to call them. We talked about things and topics that we need to talk about more as professionals, but we haven't been. So for example, we talked about how do you manage dating, diapers, and deadlines. I learned a lot during that specific topic, but there were about 6 other ones too. So those were really exciting and awesome to hear everybody open up and be personal with each other. We had happy hours for networking, of course, but that also gave us an opportunity for our sponsors to display their products. And people really loved that opportunity. We had entertainment, but not just your normal entertainment. We had some laugh therapy. So we had a comedian come and some live music to really get all the other senses flowing. We had a delicious brunch that had a free headshot clinic and coffee tasting. So, you know, all things that will make you a better professional, but also while sipping on some mimosas. A lively and informative, engaging keynote speakers. So also a big thank you to Cheryl. She was one of our keynotes, and we had Kia Weatherspoon come down as well. She's phenomenal. Highly suggest having her come to be your keynote. That really pulled the whole conference together, having a couple very strong keynote speakers. We hosted this at a hotel in Fort Lauderdale Beach, so it had a beautiful views. They did offer us a discounted rate. It was $100 off each night for the attendees if they wanted to make this experience more holistic. So, you know, they took advantage of it, I know. And the Sunday, because it was a Friday to Saturday, that Sunday we, as a team, I had stayed, we got brunch and really enjoyed each other, and cheers to each other for having such a great event. And I know the overarching question, because we did have this during COVID, what were our regulations? So we did take an amazing amount of precautions. I was really proud of our team. We were on mask police. Everybody was wearing a mask at all times during the networking events where there were food and drink. You know, the food was constantly behind panels, all of those precautions. So I was proud of our members too. If they were taking a sip, they would pull their mask down, take a sip, put it back up. And we didn't, you know, honestly, we didn't have to just smack anyone on the back of the hand too much. It was everyone was being very responsible for themselves and for each other. And that was exciting to see. So far, we haven't heard of anybody that's been sick after the event. So that's really awesome news too. If you have any questions on the COVID precautions, we did a waiver, we did distancing, everybody had their 6-foot tables, so nobody sat next to each other. It was an awesome effort on our team's part and the hotel's part. So as I wrap up, I want to display our schedule or the agenda for the weekends that we hosted. Like I said, it was half of Friday and a full day on Saturday. There are definitely a couple tweaks we're going to make next year, because yes, we are going to continue this event. It was highly favored and very successful. People were craving that connection with themselves in their personal life too. So I thought that was really exciting to see people invest in themselves and not just professionally invest in themselves. The graphics were also very fresh, lively, and soothing, and it was a perfect representation and description of the event itself. I'm going to leave y'all with some pictures. I want to do another big thank you to the committee. Without them, this was planned in about 2 months, if you believe that. We capped it at 100 participants. So we capped the socially distancing, and as you can see in that bottom picture, everybody had their own desk, some wellness pictures, the committee to the right, and then the beautiful headshots of South Florida. What better way to get a headshot than with the ocean in the background? So with that being said, thank you for having me. If you have any questions or want to keep in touch with our chapter, there's our information. And what mattered most to our members was having a personal development conference during these COVID times. So thank you.
That is absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, Alexis. I really appreciate you going through that and sharing it. It's a real shame that all of us don't have an ocean that surrounds us, because that was amazing. Thank you so much. I want to welcome Marlene from the Illinois chapter. Marlene, thank you for joining us. And can you share with everybody what mattered most to Illinois?
I am Marlene Rutherford. I am an interior designer at State Farm corporate headquarters. I've been with State Farm for 22 years. And before that, I had 7 years of residential and kitchen design experience. And I have a passion for design and for helping others. I am in Illinois. I am the director of Central Illinois City Center, and our design chapter created an event the IIDA Illinois chapter created a panel discussion. It was a virtual event in September of 2020. This event was entitled Burnout Behaviors and Barriers. We created a platform for a conversation on the challenges of mental health in today's world. Just an overview of the event. The event was free for everyone to attend, not just our members. We had 196 attendees, and we hosted the event in September in honor of Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. And the graphics that we created were in support of suicide prevention, along with the semicolon, which is also a symbol for suicide prevention and awareness. And it stands for your story's not over yet. We created a panel of professionals in a wide variety of backgrounds, not just design-based. We had Scott Zeller, a psychiatrist, Lisa Pringle, an architect, Swapnia Sisnia from Canon Design, Colleen O'Connor, she's a psychiatrist who specializes in prevention education with Project Oz. Patricia Kramer, she is a designer with Steelcase. And we allowed each of them to speak on their profession as it relates to mental health. And also we had a series of questions to continue the conversation. I'm sure you're probably wondering why a conversation on mental health for designers. Just a little backstory on how this came to be. Being the director of IDA Illinois, Central Illinois chapter, we started this concept back in 2019. My committee and I, we created a fundraiser that was a dueling panel night to raise awareness and funding to help mental health and specifically suicide prevention and awareness. You're probably asking why, mainly because I have a personal connection with suicide, and we all wanted to try to help also find a way to help out. And we all have a strong passion for improving lives through design and understanding the mental health challenges in our design communities, in our families, and our business partners. So it just came about and we pulled it together. What we do know is before COVID virus, suicide was the second leading cause of death for ages 10 through 34. And by CDC reports, suicide rates were climbing a staggering almost 34% yearly. Central Illinois City Center wanted to become a part in helping to reverse this troubling trend. And we started with a mission to support a prevention and awareness program, a local fundraiser. Although this was a tough topic, we decided that the evening needed to be fun and lighthearted and bring our members together and honor those who we've lost and get the word out to help others. So the dueling panel tonight started and we had raffle items with sweepstakes of keys. So the piano keys and the Keys of Hope event started. The event was organized to support a local group, Project Oz, Ending the Silence program. It's a mental health awareness prevention program that destigmatizes mental illness and empowers teens to ask for help. All the proceeds from the donations we collected were allocated towards Project Oz, who reaches approximately almost 4,000 students annually. The program was designed by NAMNI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and it was delivered locally, and it's delivered locally by Project Oz. What they do is they go to local schools and they speak, they host assemblies for sixth graders, and then they do a follow-up program when those students become freshmen. And basically their program is about, it's okay to not feel right. It's okay to ask for help. And it also talks to the students about how to talk to your friends. Instead of asking like, are you okay? Well, of course, someone's gonna say, I'm fine. Get more involved in a conversation and ask, I've noticed you're withdrawn or something like that. It's a wonderful program that helps the kids, and it's extremely needed. And I believe even now more so in the COVID world that we have. So from Keys of Hope going into 2020, the COVID world. We no longer were able to host large fundraising events in Illinois. The IIDA Illinois, working with the Chicago board, they really appreciated my past efforts and understood my desire to continue the conversation. And so we created a panel discussion to break the barriers that designers will see as we return into the office in the upcoming months. What we learned was behavioral health challenges are going to be very current, and ways to identify the emerging trends impacting the world that we work in, and ways to help drive those decisions to help the mental health of our people that we are designing for. We also learned that there's going to be COVID-related stress, workplace stress, social impacts of too little being in society, and then re-entry, possibly too much. And then a larger topic, the neurodiversity challenges. In our discussion, we learned that it was important to keep in mind for the future is to create a design strategy that influences behavioral health, which could be possibly like a resomercial, biophilia, and then ways to support neurodiversity challenges. To design using all-embracing and inclusive design, and acknowledging that everyone works differently. It's really important to understand. All of which will help identify that we need to make changes in our environments for behavioral health, to develop effective design outcomes and influence people in our business partners. The panelists shared their work and their stories of recovery and ways to reduce the stigma to inspire hope. And in the end, we had this panel discussion, and we learned that our conversation will need to continue. I am extremely proud and honored to be a part of IIDA, to reach out to designers and talk about mental health. I think my mom, who I lost to suicide, would be so proud of everyone in design and the way that we touch people.
Marlene, that was so amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, energy, and commitment to this incredibly important cause. Thank you. What an inspiring presentation. I'm so appreciative of it. I want to welcome now Debbie from the West Virginia chapter to share what mattered most to their chapter. Debbie, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Are you able to get that screen share working? Awesome, looks good. Take it away, Debbie.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. Happy Friday. My name is Debbie Arredondo, and I am Vice President of Forums for West Virginia. And I'm also the A&D rep for Global Furniture Group. And I'm going to be sharing for our chapter what mattered most, which was a 5-series panel discussion about community, and we titled it Diversity Through Design. And, you know, in being completely transparent, we didn't have this on our schedule for the rest of the year. When we started thinking about how to transition with COVID in mind, we actually had the whole year out really organized to talk about vertical markets and how to transition back into spaces with healthcare and workplace and COVID. And then May 25th happened, and it shook us, it shook the rest of the world. It was the death of George Floyd, and, you know, many other deaths happened. And our board just really got together and really checked the pulse of how we were feeling and how we could try and start the process of creating something, but we didn't really know what. And it really was a handful of honest conversations about, you know, like, how did this happen? How can we help? How can we make a difference? And sorry, I should have changed my slide. And that really came down to starting at our level, like starting in our own backyard and knowing that it might get awkward. And in Richmond, Virginia, we had a huge monument to a Civil War leader. And we had protests, and we had a lot of people coming together and showing love and support and being there for other communities. And we all kind of brainstormed and thought, how can we make a difference using the technology that we had, using our Zoom account, and quickly try to brainstorm topics that people in our community wanted to hear from people in our community as well. We invited people that we really admired, leaders, principals, architects, directors of design, professors, people from education settings. We wanted all of these people to the table and talk about things like diversity. We wanted, you know, minority leaders. We wanted non-minority leaders who are really making the necessary steps to create change in their small way that they can. And whether that's you know, talks about how they hire, sharing plans for not just, you know, the obvious of race, but equality for genders. And also when you talk about diversity, what does that look like with age demographics in design? So a lot of things that we wanted to kind of go into as we started creating this series and really amplify minority voices and the people that are affected within our community of design. So our team created a 5-panel series, and every single person that we had on board with us, we asked them what their personal story was. What was their journey getting to where they were in their career? If that was an architect, if that was a principal, what kind of obstacles did they face that they had to overcome? And you know, we collected quotes. We shared that on our social media platforms. We shared that. You know, after our Zoom meetings happened, we saved them and they were available to our website so that people could watch those at the times that they had allowed for that. So, so some of the things that we kind of asked our panelists when we were doing these series, and you know, if the attendees had questions, by all means, it was their discussion to ask. But we asked things like, how do you address social movements within your firms? How do you talk about them? Are we not talking about them? Do we avoid these topics? And you know, let's have a talk about infrastructure, urban developments, and how A&D really plays a part of that. Are we attending town halls? Are we listening first and then chiming in about design? And how can we work together with community programs to really design it and give back to the people who are going to be using these spaces? This is an image we put together of what we did as far as our social media. So we did headshots. Our communications team was amazing with putting together quotes really fast from our panelists and sharing what did design mean to them, quotes about their journey, quotes that were really vulnerable, but they were truthful. And these were hard conversations to have, but they were absolutely important, and not just important to have, but also for the people who were attending and listening and feeling these emotions, right? So again, we had people from design directors from the FBI, we had engineers, we had women in small businesses. So we had a lot of people come to the table and say thank you for this opportunity to share. And it's a hard conversation to have. And then lastly, this is just a page of our social media and how we quickly put together our episodes and some feedback from attendees who just wanted to share that, you know, thank you, very inspiring, lots of brave feedback and insight. And I didn't put a picture here, but we also had sponsors for each episode. So certain A&D firms would sponsor episodes, and then that amount, our proceeds would go to a local association nonprofit that assists teens with design services and programs. And so, yeah, I mean, it was just a really great, insightful discussion that we had. And so moving forward for 2021, you know, I think we're still kind of thinking about how we continue that. It's such a personal and hard topic to have with people. But I think if anything, I think our board, you know, I'm so grateful for my board. Everybody was, no question, like what happened and the feelings that everyone had, it was just not even a thought. Like, this is exactly what we need to talk about. And I think it's opened a lot of gates and have allowed people to have those conversations, you know, and we're seeing more people join our chapter and our board too, because of these conversations. So I think we're bringing value to our members. They already think of us as connectors, and we're trying to connect even further on a human level. So so that is what I have for Virginia, West Virginia.
Awesome. That was absolutely fantastic, Debbie. Thank you so much. And we should give Debbie a special shout out because Debbie jumped into this program very last minute for us because we were just so inspired by their event that we just wanted to share it with all of you. So thank you, Debbie. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you. We have one more chapter here at the end, the Northern Pacific chapter. So I want to welcome them to share their screen now and to jump into our conversation. We're so excited to hear what mattered most to the IIDA Northern Pacific chapter. Hey, Randy. Hey, Carly, are you there?
Hi, thanks, Ben, or Ryan, Ben. Sorry, I'm sure you get that a lot, reading both of your names.
Oh yeah, don't worry about it. You are, I think at this point, the millionth person to do it, so don't worry about it. Thank you both so much. I'm going to jump off and the show is all yours.
Hi, I'm Carly Rashard. I am the current president for the Northern Pacific chapter.
Hi, everyone. I'm Randy Thomas. I'm currently the past president of the Northern Pacific chapter. And to start our program today, I wanted to give you all a little background on our chapter and the decision-making that led to what we think mattered most. Northern Pacific chapter includes Washington, Idaho, Alaska, British Columbia, and Alberta. If you've ever tried to add up the millions of square miles of landmass, it's quite a big geographical area. I did that once, but I did not memorize the total. And our city centers include Seattle, Boise, and the Spokane area we call Inland Northwest. You know, and they're so far apart, we can't take day trips to each other. And that's important because even before COVID, we've always been focused on how do we connect our members across our city centers even more. You know, and then this happened and it separates us a little bit more with COVID, and, you know, we're not able to see each other in person. From early on in the pandemic, especially in Seattle, we had to take precautions to keep our members safe and make hard decisions. Like most of you, we started with postponements, being very optimistic. It might only last a couple months and we'll get right back to where we were a little bit later in the year.
And as it became more apparent that that wouldn't happen, our board had to have really tough conversations and make those decisions about what we were going to do. And our board decided that we didn't want to cancel anything. If we didn't absolutely have to, we would pivot. We're now sick of the word pivot, like all of you. But we wanted to carry on as much programming as we could. It was important to us to support our members and still give them a place of connection and provide value to them. And because our chapter operates on an annual patron system, it was also important to us to try our best to fulfill commitments to patrons who had agreed to support us for the year of 2020. And so with that, I'll pass it to Carly for what mattered most to us became professional development.
Thanks, Randy. Yeah, professional development, we had a lot of people, like I'm sure throughout the country, there was a lot of design firms that let people go, put people on furlough. I mean, even HQ did furlough. So it was something where we knew that that was a challenge for our members and our design community. And so we wanted to be able to provide both connection and continue to have areas where people could work on professional development. So I'm going to go through a few of our professional development events and activities that we did throughout the year. So the biggest ones were our forums and our coffee chats. So between May and October, we had 3 forums, a coffee chat, and a motivational speaker. They all had a common theme. So everything was titled like blank in real time. So you can see from our graphics that was adapting in real time, connecting in real time. So the first one we had in May was adapting in real time. So we had different workplace strategists and I wrote retail program director. We had somebody from Starbucks, kind of really looking at what they were seeing as they're working directly with their companies and their clients about the kind of return to work and future of work, and what that would look like as far as like programmatically and getting back into spaces. The second event we had was called Connecting in Real Time, which brought together senior designers in our community that were discussing how they maintain personal and work connections while at home, and providing advice to younger designers, especially, you know, as senior designers, a lot of people with 10 to 15 years in the industry. We've all, those of us that are, you know, that long, have all been through the recessions from 2007 to 2009, or, you know, even around the ones before that. So there's a lot of commonality there about, you know, how do you get through these challenging situations, especially when there are furloughs and layoffs, and trying to kind of continue forward with your career. The next two we had one that was leading in real time. So this was a one-on-one conversation between 2 former past presidents. There was sort of a moderator, and then the main person being kind of, you know, interviewed is now a design professional, or design principal, excuse me, and she was focusing kind of on her career path and how she got to the point of becoming a principal, and she gave a lot of really great plugs about IIDA as well, which is great. And then the last one was called Growing in Real Time. So this was a way to connect with our junior designers in the community and discuss how they've had to take on additional responsibilities. So, you know, as firms have gotten leaner with their teams, and you have people in your positions that don't have that ability to be there physically with their teams, to have the mentorship opportunities, and probably taking on a lot more responsibility because, you know, there's fewer people in the office, but the workload hasn't changed. So, you know, how are they working on their growth opportunities in their firms while being at home? And we even had a couple people that had started jobs kind of like right out of school and hadn't even met anybody in person. So that was really kind of a great way to connect with the different ages of designers. So like I said, our first forum was in May. It was our first actual post-COVID event since closures happened. Like Randy said, we were like pushing a lot out, hoping that we could kind of eventually get back to normal, which we kind of realized wasn't going to happen right away. We had almost 100 people register for just a virtual event for the first one. Because we have sponsor money for each event, we sent out drink gift cards to the first 30 people. July, we had 50 registered attendees. And, you know, like we talked about, you know, the kind of change in the world, we figured that drink cards maybe aren't like the most useful thing. So we decided to let people put their money that was essentially our event money, which in person would have gone towards food, towards 3 charities that we had selected that were within our local communities. So I know there was one for COVID relief, I think one for community and equity, and I can't remember the third. So all of the forums and coffee chats have been free to our members, which is standard. And then we severely downgraded the price because it was virtual for non-members to only $5 or $10 to make it more likely for people to attend. And then as a way to provide value to our sponsors, they were given time at the beginning of each of the programs to introduce themselves, talk about their product or their company, and then introduce the speakers. So next program is our NCIDQ study group. This is typically, this is a program that's free for all members, but it's open to anyone in the community. Usually we only have this in the winter, spring, just because there's not really a lot of attendance in the summer and fall, because that's the best time of year for the Northwest. So it's harder to get those folks. We did have most of our events in person in the spring and summer until March, when it kind of wrapped up virtually. But unfortunately, since the testing was all canceled for April, we brought on an additional study session for summer, fall to help kind of get those folks that had been planning on taking their tests kind of back up to speed. And then also for anyone that would have been planning to take their test at that time anyways. So the real benefit, like Randy said, our chapter geographically is very large. I mean, most of the members are really just Washington and Idaho, but we do have a few up in Alaska. We do have a couple of people in Canada as well. But this way, it really allowed us to expand this program for the whole chapter. Typically, we have the study program in each of our city centers, but if we don't have enough interest in the smaller city centers, it's really hard to maintain the study group if you only have 1 or 2 people, and then you have to find facilitators. So this is kind of one of the like COVID benefits, is that it really helped make it more equitable for everyone in our chapter. And then the last professional development was workshops. This was something new that we added to our programming for 2020. One thing that we added, kind of in talking about, you know, people that are losing their jobs or trying to figure out getting back in the workforce. We had somebody reach out via LinkedIn that had offered a resume workshop to another chapter, and she was basically offering it for free, just as a way to have people sign up for her program, which was great for us. So it was basically like a video, 30-minute video that people could watch. So it was free for members, and then $5 for non-members. And then what we did with our sponsorship money was that we raffled off to members only 8 one-on-one sessions. So like a 30 to 45-minute session with this resume reviewer as another member benefit. So anyone that signed up for the video, we just took all those names and just did a random search and gave those away. And I'm going to let Randy talk about the last one.
More workshops. As Carly mentioned, we started a workshop series in 2020, and it's really focused at building personal skills outside of the technical things that our great industry friends provide lunch and learns on. So we did the resume building. Our next one was called Stress Less and Do More, which is all about productivity. And this actually came from part of our Catalyst grant that we'll be doing a series of these productivity workshops. And we had a really well-renowned speaker. That's what the grant paid for. We were able to get a little bit better video production service to hold this workshop. And it was still virtual and available to all of our members. We have 2 more for this year as the continuation of our Catalyst grant. And then we're hoping to continue the workshop series to help people. And that could be anything from how to style your Zoom background, do headshots, anything like that, just to support people in their professional endeavors in a way that's a little bit outside of the office and different from our normal offerings.
I realized I did not
The
do an
cost on
end
there,
slide,
yeah.
so that's it.
I just wanted to add the virtual part of this really has been a silver lining to my point of connecting our chapter. All of our virtual events, no matter who puts them on, ProDev, Advocacy, a City Center, are open to all of our members. And when I've logged in, because previous to COVID, I had the privilege of traveling to all of our areas and meeting a lot of our members, I recognize the names. And I know that we have people from all 3 city centers on every event that I've attended, and that's really cool for us.
That's great.
I'm just going to give one more shout out. Thank you, Jess, in the comments. We did donate $2,300 to 6 different organizations throughout our region this year, because we also added a lot of donation tickets to our Eventbrite. So it was important for that community connection as well.
That's awesome. Thank you all so much, Randy and Carly. Thank you so much for sharing all that. The amount that you did is just absolutely incredible and very inspiring. So thank you for that. We're going to do our breakout room session now. So I am going to hit send in the chat right now for the breakout room link, which you should all have now. And I'll put it in one more time just because we've got some congratulations coming in, just so nobody misses it. You're all going to get an email with that information as well. And so you should be able to click into that and jump into our breakout room session. We will have that open until 12:30. The breakout rooms are intended to be an opportunity for all of you as chapter leaders to discuss with each other any topic that's related to what mattered most to your chapter. So we've got this slide here. I know some people already jumped over into the other meeting, so I will share some of this information again when we get over there. But feel free to take a look at these questions, and we will see you in the meeting room in a moment. Thank you all so much. Looking forward to the breakout rooms.